So in this lesson, we're talking about unit costs. And we've got 3 things we need to cover on our agenda. So by the end of this lesson, make sure that you can do all 3. Number 1, we need to make sure that we can say what unit cost is. Number 2, we need to make sure that we know how to find the unit cost. And number 3, actually calculate the unit cost. So make sure you've got a paper and pencil ready, because we're doing this right now, coming up on the math review. So first of all, what exactly is unit cost? Unit cost is the rate that shows the dollar value for exactly one item. And how do we find the unit cost? In order to find the unit cost, you need to divide the cost you have by the number of items you have. So for example, let's say we have 4 juicy, red, delicious apples. And the cost for these 4 apples is exactly $2. $1, $2. Since we know these 4 apples cost $2, we could say that it was $2 for every, and that's why we draw the line of our rate, 4 apples. Now, like I just said, this is a rate, but it isn't the unit rate, or more specifically, the unit cost for this here. Because if we find the unit cost, we're not finding the cost for 4 apples, but we're finding the cost for 1 apple. And in order to do that, we need to divide the cost, which here is $2, by the number of items, which is 4 apples. We're dividing 2 by 4. That means we're going to need to set up our long division. Since the cost, $2, is on top, it's going to go inside of our long division notation. So I'll put that here. Next, since I've got 4 apples on the bottom, that's going to go on the outside of our long division notation. So can 4 go into 2? No, it can't. So that means 4 goes into 2 0 times. But now what do? Does this mean we're done? No, it just means we're going to have to put a decimal point here, a decimal point directly on top, and then annex a 0. And then now we divide. How many times can 4 go into 20? Well, that's 5. So we'll put a 5 here, and 5 times 4 is 20. So I'll write 20 here. I'll subtract, and then 20 minus 20 is just 0. Now, this technically means we're done, but because we're talking about money, we don't say 5/10 of a dollar. We normally put a second decimal point there, and that's just because we're talking about money. So when we're talking about money and we're using decimals, this 0.5 is actually 50 cents. Because when we have a decimal there, and we have, it's actually 50 cents. So what does this mean? Well, this means that when it's $2 for 4 apples, that the unit cost is 50 cents for every 1 apple. So again, the unit cost is 50 cents for every 1 apple, and that's equivalent to $2 for every 4 apples. Because instead of paying $2 for all 4, we could pay 50 cents for every single one.